And it was really a very good experience to know how the field of technology is affecting the architecture and design. I'm really glad to share that with today's interview, we are starting the second round of the same series. And for the first interview in this series, we have architect Abhinav Goyal from Formforge, who is joined with us today. Abhinav, welcome on ArchiDiaries.
Thanks, Ayaz. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah, I'm really apologies for the initial glitches in the starting, but I'm really glad that we are back again. So the format of the series, it will be the same. So we invite the guests to make a presentation of their work or their research, and then in the end we have a small interaction session with them. So before I hand it over to Abhinav for his presentation, please allow me to introduce FormForge. Formforge was conceived as an idea of a disruptive art form based on the principles of contemporary and asymmetric art, involving modern design philosophy and parametric concepts. The purpose of these artworks is to create social impact, visual delight, and aesthetic transformation of the encompassing space, providing an ameliorate sense of surrounding and exuberance. Created for the niche, these artworks are a complex amalgamation of ideas created using advanced design tools and human workmanship, giving it the end form and making them unique and exquisite. The Formforge collection is a reflection of exclusivity and timelessness driven by the vision to design, reinvent, and inspire. The title of today's talk that Abhinav has chosen is Form to Fab, and I would invite Abhinav to share his presentation with us. Abhinav, over to you.
Thanks, Ayaz and ArchiDiaries for having me here. And so I hope I'll share my experience with the audience and hopefully, add some value to the viewers. I'll just start over with the screen sharing. Right. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Abhinav, perfect.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm Abhinav. I'm an architect. I'm from Formforge, and we started this company in 2016. I'll discuss our journey in detail. First, I'll just introduce the kind of work that we do. So, it started with an idea of creating disruptive art forms by the help of using design technology such as parametric design principles, digital fabrication, and various other manufacturing technologies. So finally, the idea is to create something very unique and exclusive. In this space, we are mainly covering parametric design, art installations, sculptures. We also do custom furniture, interior fit outs, facades, as well as very specialized form of fabrications. So before I talk about my journey, I'll just touch upon some work that we have been doing, so you have get an idea of where we are right now and from where we'll start. So we are doing installations, and we work with virtually all kind of materials, be it wood, metal, so anything that we can work with and make an idea possible. Uh, so these can be stainless steel, metal. So one common thing with everything is that it involves certain level of design and technology, and everything is digitally fabricated. So a lot of these projects are for private collectors, residences, and also we are doing installations for office spaces, hospitality interiors, and institutionals as well. So these are some examples of the work over the recent years. So I'll just start off with the journey because as I asked, introduce me, we are architects, and actually I passed out in 2005, back in 2005, and for about 10, 12 years, I was doing work as an architect, mostly urban design. urban design and planning. And in that, so basically, although we started this company in 2016, but I would imagine that it started right when I was in college, because I was really inclined towards technology side of things, and how how to really take that forward, and make getting better each and every day. So from there on, at around 2016, I started learning this computational design. And at that point of time, I did not travel abroad. Mostly in India, there was very little opportunity to learn all these things. So I mostly picked up, whatever information that was available from the friends, and online, and I started doing practice while I was also doing my job. So subsequently, I became better at it, and then I went to Kuala Lumpur to do my training, and I become a trainer in parametric. So I'm still a certified trainer with Rhinoceros, and initially we did some workshops, few of them, but quickly I realized that it had from theory it has to move on to certain practice. So that is when we started developing some prototypes, and we put up our first exhibition in 2017, which is was a more of a group show. And it was a successful event, and after that we decided to really make it full time. So I completely switched from job and started this company in 2017. And now in 2020 we also opened an office in Dubai. And we have so two companies, one in Dubai. And so this is my, I would say, my end days in architecture. So my last few projects as an architect, when a switch happened from a regular design practice to, now you see, there were these elements of parametricism as well as free form design. So this was virtually my last project. I did an urban design for smart city Bhopal, which was also selected among the top 20 projects in India. So, but in India, to do such work it's little difficult, because we still far away from really making it possible, having to make this very dynamic sort of building and architecture. So I thought, what can we do? So then we miniaturize the whole thing. So now this may look very simple. I'm talking about 2015, when digital fabrication was also very nascent. So these pictures are actually from my office, and we started with this little experimentation, getting the forms and patterns, and doing some little product design. It's more of an ideation. So these were my first sketches, and from there we moved on to more complex ideas, where a little later on, and of course we were using computational design tools such as Grino and Grasshopper extensively. And from there on, it was more of a learning phase, testing material, testing ideas, and how it can work together. So that's how the whole journey started, and things start getting more complex. So it was still on a very ideation level, but the business idea had not taken its shape at that point of time. So eventually, when I started this company, we landed some good projects in government space as well. So this particular installation is actually placed in New Delhi High Court building, close to India Gate. And so this phase was more of an experimentation, and we designed this chair, which also won a product design award uh, in SPA. And so that's the final product. So after that, we moved on to a serious design practice. So if I talk about digital fabrication, it's a simple process of creating an idea in a 3D environment. And from there on, we have to use computational design tools to create drawings and shop drawings, and to make it fit for fabrication. And final stage is the assembly, where the final product comes. So I will discuss some case studies with you guys now. I think all my background is all kept keeping aside. Now I'll jump on to the real thing, which the kind of projects that we do and how we do it. Now, in that journey, we were experimenting a lot with various materials and methodologies, and from there, we started this process called, now we call it as a metal origami. where we are using sheet of metal to create these faceted forms. These days, this is also taking shape of furniture, ceiling designs, and various other interpretations. But I'll just touch upon how we work. So basically, we take up we first of all we have to conceptualize an artwork in terms of space. Uh, so how the space is going to be interpreted, and then once we know that what we want to do, then it has to go through a series of iterations to make it more efficient in terms of form and fit for fabrication. So through those iterations, we come up with the final form. Now we have to do a reverse engineering on top of it, and so we call it as pattern. So every design has to ultimately be cut through some sort of a CNC machine. So either it can be a laser cutting machine, uh, CNC router, CNC milling, but everything now, every material is also coming up in some sort of a sheet format. So whether it is glass, plywood, or metal, they come in 8 by 4 sheet format on which we have to cut these things. So finally, what we get are these patterns. Now these patterns have to be cut. Uh, so this is a 8 by sheet format on which each and every component will be placed and will have a unique number. And then our fabrication team will join all those pieces together, and finally we get this sort of a finished product. Now these products by itself are hollow, so we can also have an in-mid lighting inside, and of course they're all serviceable in whichever way. Now these are the kind of sculptures we do quite extensively, and now slowly they are taking various forms, shapes, and sizes. So these are human sculptures, animal beings, and now we are also trying different materials like brass, stainless steel. So the basic process remains the same. Now I'll jump on to this particular interior installation. So the idea was that there's a lobby with, so it's a separation between two areas. One is a public area and one is a sitting lounge. So we wanted to create a divide, but still which is in the form of an art installation, where visitors cannot pass from a security check to the other location. So so this is a very wide, 4.2 meters wide installation, and this is actually made up of 700 and around 700 unique wooden components. So now the main challenge is when you are dealing with large scale projects, how to handle so much of information, to make. So this particular installation, each and every component is unique, so there is no similarity. How to tie all the forms together so that the fabrication is also possible. Now all the components that you screen on your screen is actually of single artwork, right? So that's where the reverse engineering goes, and all the components comes into the workshop, and they have to be sanded, finished, each one is numbered. So how to manage all those things, and then of course uh, comes the finishing part, and from assembly to finish also is a different journey. So that's way uh, the mock-up and everything happens inside the factory, and once he comes to the site, we then the final assembly and pictures takes a shape. So this is the final outcome of the whole fabrication process that I was sharing with you. This is a small case study of a small installation. This is the memento we presented to Prince of Alain in Dubai, and again, same thing, but on a much smaller scale, where we use MDF and 2.3 mm MDF, and we laser cut it into various small pieces, and everything is stacked together to form an artwork. And this is another idea where it's not essentially parametric, but we used CNC foaming, where the picture in the middle is a fuselage of an airplane inside of a fuselage. And this is all CNC milled in thermocol styrofoam model, where everything had to be shipped to US. And so it was completely modular. It can be broken down into, so the limitation was that we cannot have any component which is larger than 5 feet in length, because we cannot ship it through air cargo. So we had to really design it. So this is a very good example of how digital fabrication can help solving a problem. In this exhibition there was not a single component which was hand cut. Everything was through a machining process. So now this is again some outcome of all those designs which I already some of them shared with you. This is an example of water jet cutting of an aluminium, and the picture on your right is a letter, and we actually had a long installation by the name of Satyam Vijayati in Delhi High Court itself. So now we are doing more complex organic forms, and this is a more recent work which I'm going to share with you. This is an example of how to solve a problem where during COVID times we were sitting and we were ideating and thought that we how to make complex shapes, because when it comes to parametrics we have a set notion in your head. Whenever you talk parametric, it's mainly about having slicing a 3D form and making into components and then putting it back together. So we really wanted to break away from that and explore newer possibilities. So that is where uh, it all started, and now we are doing the same thing in sheet metal. So it may not really appear to be a typical parametric engineering per se, but I would rather call them a digital fabrication process. And we are exploring a lot of these organic forms. In this particular case, it's a lotus. So though it is quite symmetrical, but still it's complex, the sheet metal fabrication. So we had to literally engineer each and every component of this installation, and cut it through a laser cutting and assemble it together. So there was a lot of engineering that had to be done, a lot of back and forth work. And so this is typically how the patterns were made. So it's quite different from what you had seen earlier case studies. And finally these are the outcomes of these byproducts of this new approach that we are having towards the design. So now we can create many versions of the same model. And uh, so so this is more recent picture of the things that we are doing right now. So now we're exploring this space further, and hopefully very soon you will see more coming up. So also experimenting with newer finishes, design and colors and stuff like that. So I'm just sharing some recent sort of new design ideas we are working as I'm speaking to you. The picture on the right is actually from the store in Dubai, where we have exhibitions regularly happening. So these are examples of more organic forms as I was discussing, and we are presently working on. Right. So this is a glimpse of an exhibition event that happened 2 years back in India Design Week. So I think that will sum up more or less what we are doing, and I'll be happy to take questions from you regarding what we do. And if I were to really summarize the whole thing, so one conception I really want to break is that parametrics is not a design method. It is not a typology. It is just a way of making things. And I would rather, so it's a way of making things easier rather than more complex. And it is to break away from the way the standard industrial manufacturing happens. So when wherever you don't have an economy of scale, where we don't have to make one thing so many times, and there we would need certain digital tools to make it possible. So it is just not possible to make a template for, or to make a cast for everything. So that's how we are rejecting the fixed solutions, and trying to explore various other possibilities. So that's it from me, Ajay.
Yeah, thank you, Abhinav. Request
So I
you
cannot hear
to.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you, Abhinav. Yeah,
So I
it was
hope
really
that brings some little light to the kind of work that we do, and I'll be happy to take questions from you.
absolutely. I think it was really nice to see how the parametric tools and the contemporary design forms come together to give you these various sort of solutions. Some of them are artwork, some of them are installations, and some of them are furniture. So it was really nice to see the whole. And in many of the cases, you also actually demonstrated in detail as to how sort of the workflow is. So that was also something that was very helpful to the students who are watching. So, just would like to have a couple of questions, starting with your journey from, as you said, that initially you were practicing as an architect, and then you sort of came to the parametric design. So, how did you sort of landed there? I mean, what was the journey like in the sense? Was it that because you realized that that to in order to realize those free forms architecture, it was at the current situation, the kind of techniques that are available, it was difficult, it was not possible, and hence the smaller solutions are smaller scale, it will be easier. So, what was your journey like? How did you arrive at that?
So I think if I were to really talk to the students, so one thing is that in our times, now of course there's a lot more awareness of the kind of tools that are available, to push the boundaries of the design deeper. But back in 10 years back, we had AutoCAD, we had SketchUp. So I think 19%, so either you would do a design on Sketch, right? Even an urban design, if you can do that, nothing like it. But the main problem see with the students is that they're using CAD tools to design anything. And
Hmm.
the way the CAD is design is not for design, it's not for, it's for manufacturing.
Hmm.
It is not an urban design tool, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So the way the thought process used to develop is very linear. So
Hmm.
that is the reason in our times, we should struggle. So we
Yeah,
had an idea in our mind, but we just don't know how to really interpret into a physical form. So we
yeah,
could sketch,
yeah,
that's fine. But in our times, we needed to do a lot of exploration.
yeah,
So it was not a linear process from A to B. We had to explore a lot of things. So I was struggling at during that time. So that is I thought it was more of a need for me to really venture out and
hmm.
dive deeper into how things are happening outside,
Hmm.
uh, outside world.
Yeah,
uh, so of course, if you're interested and you are very persistent about these things, then you can become good at it,
yeah.
and from good you become better. And I posted some videos online, and they become they got for a time actually they were ranking one, if you
Hmm.
talk about parametric architecture. So
Hmm.
it gave me a lot of confidence that yes, we can actually do something about it, and not just theory but actually also in practice.
Yeah,
So but I also wanted to create a difference. I
yeah.
wanted to do something very unique, not just so I thought this area where we have to do installations is a good space. It's
Hmm.
not very big,
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
very, not very small also, and
Hmm.
it is something which is yet to be explored. Even
Yeah,
today I would say that there's a lot of room for new
yeah,
ideas and new practices. And now a lot of people are coming into this space. I mean,
yeah,
past, I think last 2 years has been really good,
yeah.
where I see a lot of new architects and
True.
students also are jumping in, and it has become like more of a trend now.
Yeah, yeah.
Back then it was not. It was not.
True. So, in that sense, the computational design tools and these newer softwares, for example, Rhino, Grasshopper, gave you sort of the wings to realize many of the ideas which were earlier you were not possible to do it with just the AutoCAD and things like that. So, that's interesting to know. And in your case, also, I mean, you had an interest and you sort of build it up on your own. I think you, for example, many of the people who are now going out, getting a degree in sort of masters, then coming back and trying to get all of this thing. Whereas in your case, the journey has been that you've sort of had an interest and you sort of build upon that completely on your own. And that's something incredible. So let me talk to you about the design processes. I mean, what kind of design processes that you have while you are uh, designing, let's say, an artwork or let's say a bespoke furniture? I mean, how do you sort of
I have to really thank my experience as an architect for 10 years. So for me, it is more of a problem solving exercise,
Hmm.
that creative part, where it's a process of elimination. So I think like an architect. So for me it's about space, experience, perception,
Hmm.
light,
Hmm.
surface. So with these installations or furniture, or even if you're creating a wall, or anything inside the space,
Hmm.
I dive in with the same sort of a perception in my head,
Hmm.
that it's more about experience, and the space, how they are communicating with each other,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
but I also like to add, it is also more about feeling, okay,
Hmm.
not just experience.
Hmm.
And one thing which we architect don't learn, or not taught, and most of us are not taught, is how to become uh, an entrepreneur, like how to really run things. You may
Hmm.
be a good designer, you may be very good in processes,
Hmm.
but how to really get your idea into a market,
Hmm.
how to understand uh, uh, what is really required.
Hmm.
So that is also a very important aspect of
Yeah.
practice, design
Yeah.
practice, to really understand your market, and
Yeah.
work accordingly. So so that innovation is also an important part of trying to work with a new idea. So your question was how we approach it. So the good thing about doing a bespoke work, like any other building, is that every time there's a new opportunity, because every space is very unique, every client is very unique, every climate is very unique, budgets are very unique. So putting all these constraints together, it gives you an idea of what is really going to work in that space. So that's how we move forward.
Yeah. So you talked about a very important point. I mean, as architects, we are not we're not aware of the entrepreneurial skills at all, and that brings me to the Formforge, your practice. I mean, what is the kind of practice model that you have at the Formforge? How is your form practice organized in terms of how many departments, sections? How do you sort of get the act together?
So we have a design studio in Delhi. Okay, I'm there, and we have a design team, and most of the people in the design team are actually architects, non-practicing architecture architects. So some of them have done their specialization in parametrics, and
Okay.
now so as I said, that we basically treat our work as buildings only. But so design happens here. We have a fabrication facility in house, and
Okay.
but we also partners with various other vendors all throughout the country. And
Okay.
because we have virtually we have done installations in every big cities in India right now.
Hmm.
So depending upon the project to project, and outside India in UAE also, we have now of a manufacturing unit
Okay.
which is able to service the local projects.
Okay.
So now most of the work is what we do is right now is all bespoke, where it is project to project, and we are rarely repeat anything that we have ever done. But
Hmm.
slowly we are now trying to move into a space which is more of a fixed design, more
Hmm.
collectibles, and maybe a signature furniture, some statement pieces. So that's a new area we are exploring at this point of time. So my vision is to actually create a brand with the promise of creating a very finest of the products. So in India, especially, we don't have a culture of creating high valuable, like very finesse. Let's say the
Hmm.
craftsmanship is there, but the
Hmm.
perfection is not there.
Yeah.
So I think it has more to do with the values
Hmm.
and attitude rather than demand.
Yeah.
So I think that is one area we're really focusing hard,
Yeah.
and trying, and from there we can probably compete with the best brands in the world, if we can get to that level.
Yeah.
So I think in our country there is no shortage of brains when it comes to design innovation,
Hmm.
but the execution and the market, and it's a package. So we
Yeah.
can't just be
Yeah.
good in one thing and it's not going to work. So we have to capitalize on each and every area to make things work.
Absolutely. I mean, so not only just design, but you also design and execute on your own, right? So
Yes.
no, I was just looking at your work. There's a lot of exploration that happens in metal, and it demands a great amount of precision also. I mean, of course, there's a lot of CNC cutting and is involved in it, but eventually, in terms of the assembly of it, it is going to demand some kind of craft or people who are good at working with the metal. So, what is the kind of workflow? I mean, this machine plus craftsman. How does this happen?
So I think the majority of the problems we have to fix before cutting a single sheet, right? Because we cannot just go back. It's so precise that even one wrong move can really jeopardize the whole project.
Hmm.
So that's the design part. So
Yeah.
once everything is cut and it has come to a factory,
Yeah.
then comes a this means then we are left with two things: assemblies and finishing, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes everything is done by one team, and sometimes you need a very specialized person. Like a client required a particular kind of finish.
Hmm.
So we may work with artists or craftsmen, and it depends. But I think majority of the problem is not a problem. It's basically when it comes to assemblies and finishing,
Hmm.
that's more of a skill requirement rather than problem solving.
Yeah.
So we are able to work we are able to actually get things done outside India, sitting here and designing. So that's how precise it is.
Yeah.
There's only one way it can work out.
Yeah. So I'll like to ask a couple of things, maybe let's say beyond. I mean, so one is that if I look at the whole oeuvre of the Formforge, there is an exploration on the forms and how you can realize the forms through various parametric processes. Now, that be artwork or whether it be bespoke furniture, what do you think lies beyond? I mean, and in the sense that uh, uh, could there be something that lies beyond the exploration of form? What are your ideas on the parametric design? I mean, that you want to explore in future?
So, see, I'll tell you, but personally, I really don't use word parametric, but because I think it's a very misconceptualized, phenomena. So,
Yeah,
parametric is basically a data-driven design, which can
yeah,
be anything. Like even your simples of the task are also parametric. So, for me, what I'm trying to explore is basically a digital design and fabrication space,
mm,
and see what are all the possibilities, because our practice lies somewhere between industrial design
mm,
and an artwork,
yeah,
and handcrafted artwork, right? It's a
yeah,
mix of both. So uh, so that is one area we're trying to explore and see how deeper we can go and how far we can reach, because
mm,
we practically want to, as I said, that create products and ideas which for also for an international market, and
yeah,
that works very differently. Sometimes it's not about parametrics or how it is done or form or anything, but it is, I think our focus is really on execution,
mm,
and the finesse, and how well crafted and how well balanced that particular product is, and the kind of markets that we are catering to. So our vision is to go wider, deeper, and higher, in that sense. And so I see there is infinite possibilities. It's not restricted to artwork or furniture. So practically it's a way of problem solving. So I think with that approach we tackle. So as and when things come, we approach that with the same method and this thing. So, but I think probably 4 or 5 months down the line, you will be seeing a very new lineup of products in a very different. So, keep having the same idea of digital design, computational, but in a very different flavor. So we may be using a lot of retro classical elements, create some fusion artwork. So I'm really looking forward to that, and soon, very soon, you will see some of that coming down the line.
great. I think will it will be great to see all of that. So I think with that, I would like to conclude
Sure.
today's interview, and it was really nice. to see the Formforge work, and also a lot of experiences that you shared with us. It was really fantastic to interact with you. I'm really thankful to you, Abhinav, for giving us your valuable time and coming here on our platform. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ayaz. Thanks.
I would also like to thank all the people who have joined with us on Facebook and YouTube, and hope to see you again next Tuesday at 6 o'clock with another interview, second interview in this series with architect Krishnamurti from Folds Design Studio. So, thank you so much for joining with us.
Thank you.